चक्षुश्रोत्रमसो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम इत्येतदक्षरमुद्गीतमुपासीत ओम इति ह्युद्गायते तस्योपव्याख्यानम् न व्यदश्रुतेः अस्तितो गौणी असंभवात्। न वियत् अश्रुतेः न खलु आकाशम उत्पद्यते। न वियत् means न वियत् उत्पद्यते न खलु आकाशम उत्पद्यते. The proposal here is pratigna is that is akasha is not created, is uncreated, is nityam, is eternal. Why do you say that? Kasmat ashrutehe. That's the hetu. Nihiyasya utpatti prakarane shravanam asti. Vedanta Ekadashi says that the utpatti prakarane, in the context of creation, we do not find akasha or space being mentioned as the element that is created. Resorting to the Chandogya Upanishad, which describes the creation beginning with tejaha or the element fire. So when the Vedanta Ekadashi said that, the Purva Pakshi says astito. But in that, so Shrutyantare tu asti. Alright, ma nama akashasya chandogye bhut utpatti. You're right. Then in Chandogya Upanishad, there is no mention of creation of space. Shrutyantare tu asti. Another Shruti, namely the Taittiriya Upanishad, definitely there is this mention. Tasmadva etasmad atmanah akasha sambhutah. From that Brahman, which is the self, akasha was born. So akasha got created. Akasha was born. So it very clearly says that akasha sambhutah, the space was born, meaning space is created. So the point of Purva Pakshi is that, which means that there is vipratishedah, mutual contradiction or internal contradiction in the Shruti itself. Therefore, Shruti is not Praman. So this is the point that the Purva Pakshi is driving at. And different reasons were given. So, the Vedanti said that even though Chandogya does not specifically mention Akasha, but you can, by inference, you can say that Akasha must have been created. Then the answer is given, how can one creator do two things? Create Akasha as well as fire. So how can they be done two things? One creator cannot simultaneously create more than one thing. So then proposal is given, why not? That the creator created them one by one. First he created Akasha, then he created space. Why not that way? Says no. But Chandogya says that the Tejaha, the element fire, is created first. That being the case, there can be two first things. Suppose you want to say that the Creator simultaneously created Akasha and fire together. Then also what happens is that the Taittiriya says that the fire, Agni, was created from Vayu, Vayu Agni. Also, the Chandogya says the fire is created first. So if you say and that there can be two first. Only one thing can be first. So it is difficult to reconcile between these two Shrutis, and therefore there is a contradiction between the two Shrutis. Therefore the Upanishad is not Praman. So that Ekadeshi comes back again and gives another proposal. Gauni asambhavat. So, nasti vyatah utpattihi ashrutehe. Again we say that really space is not created because the Upanishad doesn't mention. Yato itara vyat utpattivadi shruti udahuta sa gauni bhavitam arhati. So this statement in Taittiriya Upanishad that from Atma Akasha was created or Akasha was born, it should be taken in a secondary sense, not in a primary sense. You should not take the meaning literally. Why? Why not? Even the Upanishad says that asambhava, because it is not possible that space can be created. The space does not possess the requisite samagri to be created. Nahi akashasya utpatti sambhavitum shakya. Srimat Kanabhuk Abhiprayam Sareshu Jivatsu. Look, as far as the creation is concerned, the Kanadas or Vaisheshikadas, the authorities to tell us how creation can take place. And what do they say? Tehi karana samagri asambhavat akashasya utpattim varayati. The Vaisheshika say akashasya utpattim varayati. They negate or set aside the utpatti, the creation of akasha, on the ground that there is no adequate samagri, no adequate material or the causes available for the space to be created. Samavai, asamavai, nimitta karanebhyo hikela saram utpadyamanam samutpadyate. That whatever is created is found to be created when these three causes are present. So samavai, asamavai, nimitta. Samavai means inherent, intrinsic. Asamavai, not inherent, except incidental. And nimitta, the instrumental cause. Just as in the creation of cloth, you require the samavaya karanam, the material cause, inherent cause, which is the yarn or the thread. You require a samavaya karanam, the sanyoga, the conjunction or the joining of the threads, union of the threads, because then alone the cloth can be created. So that Sanyoga. Sanyoga means the contact or the union or conjunction of the different threads also is required for the cloth to be created. And Nimitta Karanam, of course, is the weaver is the Nimitta Karanam, and it requires his, instrument, the machines to create them. And what should be the nature of Samvaya Karanam? Dravyasya cha ekajatiyakam anekam cha dravyam samvaya karanam bhavati. The Samvaya Karanam, the material cause should be ekam, ekajatiyam, anekam. It must be ekajatiyakam, must be of the same class, the same time consisting of many members. Like the yarn is the material cause for the cloth, so there must be many yarns available. Ekajatiyakam, all the yarns must belong to the same category, and there should be yarns. And there should be many. Then alone the sanyoga or association between them is possible. So only in Samvaya Karanam, the inherent cause is like this. Like the yarn and the thread, which is of the same class and many in numbers, then alone a Samvaya Karanam, their sanyoga or their contact or union is possible. Nacha Akashasya ekajadikam anekam cha dravyam arambakam asti. But we do not find any dravya, any material which can become the material cause for Akasha, which satisfies this criterion, that it should be of one class and many members must be there, then alone they can join to create Akasha or anything like that. Yasmin samvaya karane sati asamvaya karane tasyoge Akasha utpadyate. We cannot conceive of any material of which Akasha is made. And that material must be many in number so that they can unite with each other and thus create what we call space. We do not see anything like that. As far as the other elements are concerned, there are the atoms. And atoms are of the same class like Vayu, Agni, and many in number so that they can join with each other to create the gross element. In case of space, such a thing is not there. Tadabhavatu tad anugrahapurvakam nimitta karanam duropetam eva akashasya bhavati. So when the samvaya and asamvaya, these two causes are not there, then nimitta karanam, which requires these two, that nimitta karanam is far-fetched, and it's not possible. That's one thing. Second reason, asambhavat. First, asambhava is that the requisite samagri in the form of the three causes is not available. Secondly, asambhavat, prag abhava shunyatvat, because prag abhava, the prior non-existence of space also is not there. So how do you decide the prag abhava? When something is not there at this moment and then it comes into being, then you know that before this moment it did not exist. Like a pot did not exist before its creation. Therefore, the state of the pot before the creation is called prior non-existence or pragabhava. So that is a requisite condition for creation, that a thing should not exist before it came into being. If it existed before it came into being, then you cannot say it came into being. Therefore, prior non-existence is necessary for something to be born. And when something is not there, when space is not there, so what's the nature of space? To accommodate is the nature of space. So if space is not, so the space is created, that means that space did not exist before its creation. That means that accommodation is not possible at some point in time. Avakasha pradatru akasham. To accommodate is the nature of space. Like, we know that space is because all the different objects are accommodated in space. If space was not there, then this accommodation would not be there. So did a time ever exist when things were not accommodated? Now, according to Vaisheshikas, there are many eternal things, including the 5 elements also are eternal. The Kala, the space and time also are eternal. Atma, Manaha, and the self and the mind, they are all eternal things. What does eternal mean? Eternal means that they always are there. And whenever something is there, it requires accommodation. That means that the accommodating space must have been there earlier also, otherwise, how can they exist? And so, we cannot imagine the prior non-existence of space because accommodativeness always exists. This is Utpattimatam cha Tejas Prabhutinam Purvottar Kalayo Vishesha Sambhavyate. For example, fire. Now fire is definitely created. When can you say that? When there was a time when there was no fire. What happens when there is no fire? Then there is no light. Fire does 2 things. It illumines and it burns. That means that there must have been a time when the illumination was not there and when the heat or burning was not there, and then it came into being, then you can say that the fire is created. Pragutpatte prakashadikaryam na bahuva paschat bhavati iti. Give an example of teja, of fire. Pragutpatte prakashadikaryam na babhuva. So, the karya, the effect that the fire brings about, namely illumination, that did not exist before the creation of fire. So, there was a time when there was darkness and then fire came into being. Adipadat tamodvamsa pakayo granam. When fire illumines, it also simultaneously dispels the darkness. At the same time, fire is hot, therefore it cooks things also. So this dispelling of darkness, cooking etc. did not exist at a given time and then they came into being. Therefore we say that the fire was created. Akashasya punaha na purvottar kalayo vishesha sambhavayatum shakyate. But as far as Akasha is concerned, space is concerned, the nature of space is to accommodate. You cannot imagine a time when accommodation was not there. Kim hi ragutpattehe anavakasham asushiram achidram bhuveti shakyate adhyavasadam. Is it possible for you to determine that utpatte prag, that before the creation of, suppose space is created, then before creation of space, there was a time when avakasham, accommodation was not there. So anavakasham, asushiram, achidram, a sushira was not there, chidra was not there, a cavity was not there, a hole was not there. Can you imagine that such a condition was there? Because the atoms are always there. Murta dravyashayatvam akashasya karyam. What the element akasha does is it accommodates the tangible or things with form. Tacha pralayepi asti paramanu ashrayatvat. So paramanus are always there according to them, therefore the paramanus require space to exist. So akasha must be there to accommodate this paramanus even in time of pralaya. So akasha must be there. Atah na pragabhavaha ityartha. Therefore, we cannot arrive at the pragabhava, the prior non-existence of space. Therefore, another asambhava. Therefore, the space could not have been created. So, sthulashraya avakasha. Avakasha is sthulashraya, which accommodates all these tangible things with forms. Sukshmashraya. So, sukshmashraya chidram anvashraya. Sushiram. That which accommodates sukshma is called chidram. That which accommodates the atoms is called the sushiram. That's how they explain. Now we continue. The third reason given why Akasha could not have been created. So we can understand where the Vaisheshikas are coming from. Why do they say that the space is eternal? Because they cannot see how space could possibly be created. The conditions required for creation of space cannot be imagined to exist. So Ratnaprabha says, in the fourth line, page 501, Kincha Atmat Akasho na jayate vibhutvat asparsha dravyatvat chaiti. Kincha Atmat Akasho na jayate. They accept that Atma is not created. According to mind also is not created. So like space, just like self, just as Atma or the self is not created, similarly also space is not created. Why do you say Vibhutvat? Because space is all pervasive, Atma is all pervasive. So number one, Atma is not created, that is accepted. Now, Atma is all pervasive, that also is accepted. So whatever is all pervasive is not created. And space is all pervasive, therefore space also is not created. That's how the argument is. Atmat. So, Atma na jayate. Atma is not born. And Atma is, that is accepted. And Atma is vibhu. Atma is all pervasive. Therefore, whatever is all pervasive is not born. And vibhutvas, space is all pervasive. Therefore also, space also is not born. Asparsha dravyatvacha. And also, nothing can touch Akasha. Akasha is untouchable, meaning cannot be touched. If you look at the Nyaya Nirnaya, Niravayava dravyatvat, asparsha dravyatvacha. Niravayava dravyatvat. What's the nature of Akasha? Is dravya, all right. But then, what kind of dravya? Niravayavam, partless. Akasha does not consist of parts. Atma also is niravayava. Then alone it can be vibhu. Something for something to be all pervasive, it must necessarily be partless. If it has parts, then it must be confined in space. So for something not to be confined in space, it must necessarily be without components. Then it cannot be an aggregate, it is partless. And second thing is, nothing should affect it. If something can affect it, then destruction can happen. See, these four elements, earth, water, fire and air, can affect each other. They can destroy each other. The air can destroy earth. Fire also can destroy. Water also can destroy. They are all sparsha dravya, means they are all subject to being contacted by something. But space cannot be destroyed by anything because nothing. So fire also cannot destroy space. Earth cannot destroy space. It is indestructible and never uncreated. So kincha akasho na jayate vibhutvat niravayava dravyatvat asparsha dravyatvat. Three reasons are given why Akasha is not created. Vibhutvat, because it is all pervasive. Niravaya dravyatvat, it is a dravya which is partless. Without, it is not an aggregate. Now, earth is an aggregate thing. Water also consists of drops. Fire also. All these are consisting of atoms. Idea is asparsha dravyatvat, and it is not subject to being contacted or touch. Sanyoga is not possible for anything with Akasha. So that's what Bhashyakara says. पृथिव्यादि वैधर्म्याच्च विभुत्वादि लक्षणात् आकाशस्य अजत्व सिद्धिः पृथिव्यादि वैधर्म्याच्च is dharma. Dharma of the Akasha is quite different from the dharma of other four elements, Prithvi, etc. Vibhutvadi lakshanat, because Akasha is all pervasive, any other four elements are not pervasive, they are confined to given space. Akashasya ajatva siddhi. Therefore also, so we know that Prithvi is created. Water is created, fire is created, air is created, because they are created and they are not all pervasive. Whereas space is of a different class, it is all pervasive, therefore it does not possess the same dharma that other four elements possess. So other four elements are subject to being born. Akasha is ajaha, ajam, or ajaha, unborn. Akashasya ajatva siddhi. उक्त अनुमानानाम उत्पत्ति सिद्ध विरोधम आशंक्य तस्याः गौणतम दृष्टान्तम उपसंहरति. But all your anumana contradicts what the Shruti says that Akasha was created. Therefore, the Ekadeshi says, therefore the Shruti must be taken in a secondary sense. The anumana. So the creation, the birth of Akasha is denied on the basis of anumana. Although you cannot prove Shruti wrong on the basis of anumana, but asambhavad is anumana. The requisite causes are not available, that it does not have pragabhav, prior non-existence, and it is partless and all pervasive. That being the case, these anumanas or these inferences establish that Akasha is unborn. But Ukta Anumananam Utpatti Shruti Virodham. But your Anumana inferences, they go against what the Upanishad says that Akasha was created. Tasya Gaunatvam. Therefore, the Ekadeshi says, therefore, the Utpatti Shruti, the Shruti statement that talks of Utpatti of the space must be taken in the secondary sense, not in the primary sense. Because it Pramananta Virodhat, it contradicts the Anumana Pramanam. So Bhashyakara Tasmad iti. Tasmad yatha loke akasham kuru आकाशो जातः इति एवं जातीयकः गौणः प्रयोगो भवति यथा च घटाकाशः करकाकाशः गृहाकाशः भवति एकस्यापि आकाशस्य एवं जातीयको भेदव्यपदेशः गौणो भवति वेदेपि आरण्यान् आकाशेषु आलभेरन् इति एवं उत्पत्तिश्रुतिरपि गौणी द्रष्टव्या. Tasmat, so now conclusion is that the Upanishad, the Shruti of the Taittiriya was taken in a Gauna or a secondary sense. It's not unusual. Tasmat, yatha loke, just as in our day-to-day interaction. Akasham kuru, create the space, meaning give room, give accommodation. So Akasham kuru, create accommodation. Akasha jata, the room is given, so accommodation is given. Evam jatiyaka gauna prayoga drishbhavati. Even though Akasha can't be born, but still is a Akasha jata. When you construct a room, then room space is created. Or Akasham kuru, give him some room, give him some space. Then this fellow moves aside. And like we're traveling in a train, then 6 people are always sitting on the berth, and then this 7th fellow, they somehow squeeze him in, So, Akasham, give him room. So you say, room is given, room is created. These are all secondary uses because the space is not created. So, evam jatiyako gauna prayoga bhavati yatha cha ghatakasha karakakasha. Says alokadivat akashasya pradesha vedvatvat mukhyam janmita asankya. Wait a minute. So whichever is confined to any place is always created. Akash also is confinement. Because Ghatakasha, Karakakasha, the space within a pot, the space within a pitcher, the space within a room. So therefore, space also is divided. It is confined to space. So therefore, Pradesha Bhedavatvat Mukhyam Janma. So when space itself is confined to locations, then it must have the primary birth. Idashankya Janma Prayojaka Pradesha Vedasyapi Gaunatvam. Even looks like the Akasho Jata. When a ghata or a pot is created, then pot space is born. When the room is created, room space is born. So there is no real birth, there is also the Gauna Prayoga or in a secondary sense. So yathacha ghatakasha, the space in a pot, karakakasha, the space in a jar, gruhakasha, the space in a house, the ekasyapi akashasya, even the space is one. Evam jatiyaka bheda vyapadesha gauno bhavati. Even then, bheda vyapadesha, the designating or uttering that the space is within the room, space is within the pot, space is within the jar. Everybody knows that space is not within them, they are all within space. And therefore, even though in our day-to-day interaction, we do say the space in the room. Space is created. Space is in the room. But we know that space is not in the room. Room is in the space. So, otherwise that Bheda, if the spaces were really different, then definitely they would have been created. Like the earth is, here and not there, confined. Then you know that it is created. Fire is here and not there, so it is confined. Water is here, not there, it is confined. Air is here, not there, confined. When that is there, definitely it is created. So then the space also is there within room, and space also is there within a pot. Says that is a Gauna Prayoga, that is the secondary usage and not the primary usage. Laukika Vyapadeshasya Gaunatvepi Vedika Vyapadeshasya Mukhyatvam. Alright, so in the Laukika, in the day-to-day life, you are using these expressions in a secondary sense, but in the Vedas also, there are statements which appear to mean that the space is confined. So, what Veda says must be taken in a primary sense. So, to that, the Purupakshi said, or the Vedepi, Purva means Ekadeshi, Vedepi, Aranyan, Akasheshu, Alaverandati. Alaveran, the sacrifice. Akasheshu, in the spaces. Aranya, the forest animals. So forest animals are sacrificed in spaces. Akasheshu, spaces. As though there are many spaces. So the word Akasha is used in plural. As though there are many spaces. But there also really many spaces are not there. Akasheshu iti Veda Vyapadesha Gauna. Even that Akasheshu, many spaces, that expression, many spaces, which seem to indicate that spaces are many, also is Gauna, is also in a secondary sense. So that's a Vedic udaharana. Evam Utpatti Shruti api Gauni Drishtabhya. Evam, in this manner also, when Upanishad says, Etasmat Atmana Akasha Sambhutah, from Atma, the Akasha was born, that also should be taken in a Gauna secondary sense. In that case, what will happen? Then it does not contradict the Chandogya Shruti, which is primary. That means that there is no contradiction among the Shrutis. Therefore, the Shruti is Pramanya. So that way, this Ekadeshi is helping us by establishing the Pramanya of the Shruti. But the way he is doing it, he is hurting us. He is helping us in one way. But then, the way he is doing us, he gives reality to space. And that way, he is establishing the Pramanya. We want to say that no, space is mithya. And therefore, the creation is not to be taken in a primary sense. Srushti Stuti, all of this is merely is only the Arthavada. It is only meant to establish the non-duality of Brahman. And therefore, there is no order, and there is no sequence, and there is no consistency as far as the description of the creation is concerned. It is not because the Upanishad Shrutis contradict each other. It is because the Tatparya is not there. Upanishad does not have Tatparya, does not have the intended meaning of conveying the real creation. This is only to show that creation is mithya and Brahma is Satyam. This is the Vedantin's argument. This argument supports the consistency, but then it is based on giving reality to Srishti. Therefore, it is not total Vedanta, therefore Vedanta Ekadeshi. Then says Ratnabhava further, न केवलम तर्काद आकाशस्य अनुत्पत्ति किंतु श्रुतितोपि इतिहास सूत्रकारः. Same Ekadeshi continues. न केवलम tarkat akashasya anutpatti. Akashasya anutpatti. That the space is not created is not merely by tarka or the reasoning, kintu shrutitah api. Even there are statements in the Shruti, in the Vedas, which seem to indicate that Akasha is unborn, is birthless, or therefore is not created. Therefore, says the next sutra, Shabdacha. Shabdacha. Cha means api. Shabdat api. What it should mean is Shabdat api, even because of the Shabda. What is Shabda? Shabda means the Shruti statement. Understand? Vayuscha antarikshaidam amrutam ityadi shrutau. At one point in time, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that Vayu also is immortal, space also is immortal. Akashe amruta shabda darshanat. Therefore, we find the word amruta, immortal, being used for the akasha also. Therefore, no akashasya utpatti. Therefore, akasha is not created. So, further argument. And if akasha is not created, then the Shruti that describes the creation of akasha must be taken in the secondary sense. Tadvyasashte, Bhashyakara explains the sutra. Shabda khalu akashasya ajatvam khyapayate. So Shabdacha is explained. Shabda khalu akashasya ajatvam khyapayate. That's the meaning of that sutra. This is hetu. As far as the pratigna is concerned, it is continued. Na viyat is a pratigna. Then gauni asambhavad. Then shabdacha. So na viyat utpadyate shabdacha. Because of shabdadapi, because of shabda also. Shabda khalu akashasya ajatvam khyapayati. Shabda meaning the words or the statements of the Upanishad also khyapayati. It declares or reveals the ajatvam, the birthlessness of space. Says, what is that shabda? Yatah aha vayuscha antariksham cha idam amrutam iti. That because the Shruti says vayuscha antariksham cha idam amrutam. This vayu and antariksham in space are amrutam, immortal. Then says in Nyayana, amrutatvam eva tashruvate natu anutpatti. The Upanishad says that the space is immortal. That does not mean it is not created. So, Upanishad, the word Shabda, you say Shabdacha because of the statement of Upanishad. But Shruti doesn't say that it is not created. Shruti says that Akasha is Amrutam, immortal. It doesn't say not created. So Vashyakara says, Nahi Amrutasya Utpattihi Upapadyate. Amrutasya Utpattihi Nahi Upapadyate. Certainly, what is immortal cannot have birth. Jatasya Dhruva Mrityuhu. So whatever is born will definitely perish. For something to be imperishable, it must also not have birth. Therefore, it is indicated that space does not have birth. This is called Arthapatti, Shrutyarthapatti. So, Shruti does not say Akash is unborn, but Shruti says Akash is immortal. Therefore, Arthapatti. By presumption, then you arrive at this, it could not have been immortal had it been born. You know? And so, anyatha anupatti, it cannot be born. It cannot be. Shruti would not have said Amrutam immortal had Akasha been born, therefore Akasha is birthless. So by Arthapatti, we arrive at this conclusion, Akasha is birthless. Shruta Arthapatti Anantaramaha. Another Arthapatti is also being stated, Akasha vaditi. Akashavat sarvagatasya nityaha. Iti cha Akashena Brahma sarvagatatva nityattvabhyam dharmabhyam upamimanaha akashasyapi tau dharmau suchayati nacha tadrushasya utpattihi upapadyate. So another Shruti is quoted. Akashavat sarvagatasya nityah Shvetashvatara Upanishad. So Atma is nityah. Akashavat sarvagatasya nityah. Akasha is presented there as upama, as an illustration for illustrating the nature of Atma. That Atma is nityah. Sarvagataha nityah. Akash is Atma is Sarvagataha. Atma is all pervasive. Akash all pervasive like space. Akash is nitya, eternal like space. So Akash, just as space is all pervasive and space is eternal, so also Atma is all pervasive, Atma is eternal. By that statement, iti Akashena Brahma sarvagatatva nityatvabhyam dharmabhyam upamimanaha. So Shruti gives the upama, the comparison of Brahma with Akasha. Brahma is known as sarvagatam. So the Upanishad seems to say that Akasha and Brahma possess similar attributes. Brahma is all pervasive and eternal. Akasha also is. So, in order to illustrate the all pervasiveness of Brahma and eternality of Brahma, Akasha is presented as an example. To illustrate how Brahma is all pervasive, like Akasha is all pervasive, Brahma is all pervasive. How Brahma is eternal, like Akasha is eternal, Brahma is eternal. That means that all pervasiveness and eternality of Akasha are established. Then only you can present them as upama. So Akashena Brahma upamimanaha. So when the Shabda which gives the upama, the comparison of Akasha with Brahma, or Brahma with Akasha, sarvagatatva nityatvabhyam dharmabhyam, Akasha possesses sarvagatatvam, all pervasiveness, nityatvam, eternality. Upamimanaha akashasyapi tau dharmo suchayati. So this Shabda also suchayati indicates that Akasha also possesses these two dharma, sarvagatatvam, all pervasiveness, and nityatvam, being eternal. Tathapi katham anutpatti. All right. Suppose Akasha is all pervasive. Suppose Akasha is nitya. For how does it mean that he is not born? So it's by Arthapatti again. So Bhashyakara said, Nacha tadrushasya utpatti upapadyate. What is all pervasive and what is eternal cannot be born. If something is born, it can be confined only to space and time. If something is born, it will perish also. For something not to be confined in space, should not be born. Something eternal should not be born. Tadanutpattu vakyamapi manam. Then, for anutpatti, the non-creation of space, other vakya also becomes pramanam. Or as The Ratnavadi Nitya Bhavasya Anaditvadini Bhava. So Akashavat Sarvagatasya Nitya hai. Nitya must necessarily be Anadi or beginningless. Bhashyakara further says, Sayatha Anantoyam Akasha Evam Anand Atma Veditavya Idi cha Udaharanam Akasha Shariram Brahma Akasha Atma Iti cha. Say Ratnavara Iti cha Iha Udaharanam Itanvaya. So three udaharanam. So three illustrations are given. These three statements are given again to show how Akasha could not have been born. So yatha Anantoyam Akasha. Just as I am Akasha, this space Ananta is infinite. Does not Anta is boundless or infinite. Evam Ananta Atma Veditavya. And similarly also, Atma must be known as Ananta, having no end. So also, to explain how Atma is Ananta, the example of space is given. That means Anantyam, the infiniteness of the space is already accepted, and Atma is infinite like space is. Akasha Shariram Brahma. What is Brahma? Brahman is Akasha as a Shariram. Brahma is space as the body. Akasha Atma. Akasha is the Atma of the self. Iti cha. So Akasha is Atma and Akasha Shariram Brahma. Brahma is Akasha Shariram. Iti cha. All of these are the Udaharanam. There are illustrations which clearly say that Akasha is all pervasive, is infinite, is immortal, is unborn. That for unborn. Nowhere it is said Akasha is Ajam, So none of these Shrutis seem to say Akasha is Ajam. But Anantam, Nityam, Vibhu. And that way, by Arthabhakti, it could not be Vibhu, could not be Ananta, could not be Nitya, had it been born. Therefore, it is unborn. That is how, by Arthabhakti, we arrive at this conclusion that these Shrutis mean to say that the space does not have beginning or birth. Says Nyaya Nirnaya Adi Madhya Avasana Vaidhuryam Anantyam Anantoyam Akasha. So Akash Ananta, what is Ananta? Infinite. Means what? Adi Madhyanta. So Adi Madhya Avasana Vaidhuryam, which does not have Adi or Madhya or Avasana, no beginning, no middle, no end, then only it's called Anantam. Tat Akashasya Adimatve na upadyeta. If Akash had a beginning, it could not be without beginning, middle and end. Atmanavi tat prasangat, because evam ananda atma veditavya, Atma also will become with beginning, etc. So Akash also could not have. Kincha Neelam utpalam Akashena Brahmano Visheshanam Drishtam. Just as Neelam Utpalam, a blue lotus, blue is a Visheshanam, the attribute of lotus. Similarly also, we find Brahmana Akashana Visheshanam Drishtam, that Brahma is qualified by Akasha. So, Akasha Shariram Brahma, Tat Akashasya Anupapattimatvam Sadhayati Akasha Shariram Brahma or Akasha Atma. Says Nyaya Akashasya Utpattimatvepi Tena Brahmano Visheshanatvam Kim Nasyat. The argument is that Brahman is without utpatti. Brahman is beginningless. But then Akasha need not, for Akasha to be the Visheshanam, the attribute of Brahman, why should Akasha also be beginningless? Even if Akasha is an utpatti, why cannot Akasha become the Visheshanam, the attribute of Brahman? Just a question. Yashanka Bahuvrihinam Tadatma Avagama. But Bahuvrihi Samasa, you find Tadatma, the identification of Akasha and Brahman. What is Bahuvrihi? See, Ratnaprabha, last word, Akasha, Shariram, Asyeti, Akasha, Shariram, Brahma. Akasha, Shariram, Asyeti, Akasha, Shariram. Iti Bahuvrihina, Atyanta Samya Bhanat. So by this Bahuvrihi Samasa, it is very clear that Atyanta Samyam, there is a total similarity between Akasha and Brahma. Brahmavat Akashasya Anaditvam. Therefore, since Brahman is Anadi, Akasha also is Anadi because Akasha is extremely similar to Brahman. Akasha Shariram Yasyatat Brahman. So Bhashyakara says, Nahi Akashasya Utpattimatve Brahmanaha Tena Visheshanam Sambhavati Nilena Iva Utpalasya. Nahi Akashasya Utpattimatve. If Akasha was Utpattimat, or Utpattiman, if Akasha was possessed of being created at the beginning, meaning if Akasha had a birth or was created, Brahmana Tena Visheshanam Nahi Sambhavati, then a thing, Brahman is birthless. If Akasha is Utpattimat, then it cannot become the Visheshanam, because Visheshana and Vishesha should be similar. Nilena Utpalasya. That Nila and Utpala can go together. But then birthless and then the born cannot go together. If Akasha hadn't had birth, it could not be Visheshana of Brahman, which is birthless. Shabda Samartham, Samartham Upasammarati. And so, what is established on the strength, on the base, Samarthya is Arthabhakti. So, what is established on the base of Arthabhakti by the Shruti Shabda is now concluded here. Says the last sentence. Tasmat Nityameva Akashena Sadharanam Brahma Iti Gamyate. So from these statements, it is clear that Akash and Brahma are very similar. So Akash Nityameva Akashena Sadharanam Brahma. Brahma or Akasha is always similar to Brahma. In every way similar to Brahma. And Brahma is birthless ever, Akasha is birthless. So this is how it is established that Akasha is not born. Says Anandagiri, Sambhuta Shabdam Adhikritya Sambhavita Shankam Uchchinati. Tasmadva etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta. Very clear. Sambhuta means was born. So then, how can you say that Akasha is not born? Akasha sambhuta. Akasha is born. Or, interesting thing is that tasmadva etasmad atmana. Now this person says gauni bhavitum arhati. That Akasha Sambhava, the creation of Akasha, must be understood in a secondary sense, meaning that Akasha Sambhuta, the Ekadeshi established that Sambhuta, this word Akasha, born, should be taken in a secondary sense, not in a primary sense. If Akasha is not born, then Upanishad says Akasha Sambhuta, Akasha is born. That means that born must be taken in a secondary sense. So that is now a question. Sambhuta Shabdam Adhikritya Sambhavetam Ashankam Uchyanati. Hey, you are interpreting the word Sambhuta, born, in a secondary sense. Now that will bring about some difficulties. So the doubts that can arise because of taking the word Sambhuta in a secondary sense, those doubts are resolved in the next sutra. So, this Sambhuta, it was born. That word is interpreted in a secondary sense. As though born means not born. But that will bring about some of the problems or doubts, which doubts are resolved in the next sutra. Syaditi. Syacha ekasya brahma shabdavata. Ekasya shabdasya sambhutah. So Brahma shabdavat. So what? Same word can have secondary meaning. The idea is that same word can have, the problem will be, listen, Akasha sambhutah, Akashat vayoho, so vayoho sambhutah, vayoho agnihi, agnihi sambhutah, that goes, Now that means sambhuta word appears 5 times. Now you are accepting the creation of vayu, agni, apaha, prithvi, meaning that in those 4 cases, sambhuta means sambhuta. They accept that vayu is born, fire is born, therefore in those 4 cases, sambhuta is in a primary sense. But because akasha in a secondary sense. So in one sentence, how can you say sambhuta is in secondary sense in one case, in the beginning, and later on it's a secondary case, secondary sense? He says that is possible. Brahma Shabdavat, because Brahma also is used in the same passage in a primary sense and secondary sense. Yatha ekasminneva prakarane, in one prakaranam, annam brahma idyatra Brahma Shabdo gaunah. Annam brahmeti vijanat, prano brahmeti vijanat, mano brahmeti vijanat, vijnanam brahmeti vijanat, anando brahmeti vijanat. So first 4 cases, so annam brahma, all in the secondary sense. Anando brahmeti vijanat, that is the primary sense. So how in the same prakarana, same section, the word brahma is used in a secondary sense as well as in a primary sense, so also in the same section, word sambhuta can be used in a secondary sense as well as primary sense. So this is how the doubts now is sound. So Vashyakara says, idam padottaram sutram. Padottaram says Jnana, pada vishaya chodyottaram idam sutram. Pada vishaya chodya uttaram. Pada is word, sambhuta. So one word sambhuta, that taking that in a secondary sense, chodyam, that brings about various doubts. And this is the sutra or the aphorism that is meant as resolving those doubts which arise because of that word. So pada uttaram. That word, sambhuta, to be taken in a secondary sense, brings about variety of doubts. And this sutra is an answer to those doubts. Says padottaram, says Ratnava, Shankottaram iti. It replies to different shankas. Taniva shankapadani pachati. So what are those doubts? Now Bhashyakara reiterates them one by one. Syadetadati. So Bhashya says, Syadetada katham punaha ekasya sambhuta shabdasya tasmad vai etasmad atmanaha akasha sambhutah iti asmin adhikare pareshu tejah pravritishu anuvartamanasya mukhyatvam sambhavati akashe cha gaunatvam katham punah ekasya sambhuta shabdasya. Lord Sambhuta is one. Tasmadva etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta. From Atma, the Akasha is born. Yasmin adhikara. Adhikara means prakarana. In this particular prakarana means section describing creation. Pareshu, Teja Prabhushadu. Pareshu means later on. So those which occur later on, like Teja. So Vayo, Agni, Agni, Apaha, Advya. Teja, because Chandogya mentions Teja, therefore. So Teja means those which occur later on. Anuvartamanasya mukhyatvam. Anuvartaman, there is anuvartaman, anuvritti. Akasha sambhutah, Vayu sambhutah. That word sambhuta must be carried through. It's called anuvritti. So anuvartamanasya mukhyatvam sambhavati. But you are accepting that Vayu, Agni, Apaha, or as this person said, that Agni, Apaha, Prithvi, mentioned in Chandogya Upanishad, that birth is in a primary sense, that you are accepting. So there the word Sambhuta is taken in primary sense. Mukhyatvam Sambhavati. Akasha Gaunatvam, but the word Sambhuta mentioned with reference to Akasha is taken in secondary sense. How can it be? In the same section, how can one word have these two kinds of meanings, primary and secondary? Ataha uttaram uchyade. Therefore, the uttara is given. What is it? Says Ratnaprabha, Yatha ekasmin brahma prakarane annam brahma anando brahma iti vakyayoho brahma shabdasya anne gaunatvam anande mukhyata. Yatha ekasmin prakarane, in the Bhruguvalli, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, annam brahma iti vijarat, that is, brahma is secondary. Anando brahmeti vijarat, the word is in the primary sense. Iti vakyayo brahma shabdasya anne gaunatvam anande mukhyata. Listen, the two vakyas, the word brahma with reference anna is in the secondary sense, with reference to ananda it is in the primary sense. Tatha ekavakyastasya ekasyavi sambhuta shabdasya. Similar word sambhuta which obtained in one vakya, in one passage. Guna mukhyartha veda yogyata balad. So therefore, guna mukhyartha veda, veda is there. One case guna, other is mukhya. In case of the ayu, akasha is guna. Other cases mukhya, that veda can be there. So this, you find that kind of usage elsewhere. Find it then here also it is possible. Ityas Syatcha, the Bhashyakara says, Syatcha ekasyapi sambhuta shabdasya vishaya vishesha vashat gunaha mukhyascha prayogo brahma shabdavata. So that is the explanation of sutra. Syatcha ekasya brahma shabdavat. So syatcha ekasya means ekasyapi sambhuta shabdasya. Sutra only says ekasya, of one. In this particular case, ekasya sambhuta shabdasya, of the word sambhuta, which is one. Vishaya vishesha vashat gauna. So Brahma Shabda Vishaya Vishesha Vashat. Because Vishaya, the objects are different, and therefore the same word can have different meanings with reference to different objects. Gauno Mukhyasya Prayoga Brahma Shabdavat. So depending on what the word Sambhuta refers to, it can have Gauna or Mukhya, secondary and primary meaning is possible. Brahma Shabdavat, like what Brahman is only one, but means secondary and primary with reference to different objects. So Bhashyakara says, Yatha ekasyapi Brahma Shabdasya tapasa Brahma vijijñāsasva tapo Brahma iti asmin adhikare annādishu gauna prayoga ānande ca mukhya. Ekasyapi Brahma Shabdasya, just a Brahma Shabdavat, like the word Brahma. So what does it mean? Yatha ekasyapi Brahma Shabdasya. The word Brahma is only one still. Tapasa Brahma vijijñāsasva. We know Brahman by tapas. So that word Brahman in the primary sense. Tapasa Brahma vijijñāsasva. Word Brahma is in the primary sense. Tapo Brahmeti. Then says tapasa Brahma vijijñāsasya tapo Brahmeti. Right? Tapas itself is Brahman, but that word Brahman in secondary sense. Tapas means alochanam, deliberation, reflection, contemplation. That the word Brahma is sadhanam, in the secondary sense. Yasmin adhikare, in the same prakaranam, annādishu gauna prayoga ānande ca mukhya. Annam brahmeti vijanat, prano brahmeti vijanat, mano brahmeti vijanat, vijnanam brahmeti vijanat. In all the four cases, annādishu gaunam, meaning is secondary. Ānando brahmeti vijanat, ānande ca mukhya. And ānanda, it is mukhya. Udaharanantarama. So, another udaharana is given, Yathacha iti, Bhashyakara says. Yathacha tapasi Brahma vijnana sadhane Brahma shabdaha bhaktya prayujyate anjasatu vijñeya brahmani tadvata. So tapo brahme, tapo brahmeti. So yatha tapasi, tapas is what? Contemplation. Because Brahma Vijnana sadhane, contemplation is the sadhanam, the means of knowledge of Brahman. So contemplation or tapas is not Brahman. It is the means of Brahman. But there also the word Brahma is employed. So tapasi, Brahma Vijnana sadhane, Brahma Shabda, Bhaktya prayujyate. Bhaktya means Gaunya Bhaktya. So, word Brahman is employed there in the secondary sense. Anjasa means what? Mukhya Bhaktya. In a primary sense to Vijñaye Brahmani. So, tapasa Brahma vijijñāsasva. May you seek to know Brahman by tapas. So, there Brahman is what? Vijñaya. So that Brahman is something to be known. So Vijñaya Brahmani Mukhya. So in the word Brahman which is to be known, that word Brahman is used in a primary sense, where tapas, which is the means of knowledge, that word Brahman is in the secondary sense. So how you find one word Brahman in a primary sense and secondary sense, same context. Similarly also, the one word Sambhuta can be in a primary and secondary sense in different objects. So that's how the word Sambhuta, the usage is explained. The further doubts are coming up, we'll see it next time. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina